And welcome to the Tech and Test podcast with me, Peter Johnson. Today we've got James Bach on the show. James, do you want to introduce yourself to the Tech and Test audience?
My name is James Bach. I am a consulting software tester. I started as a developer 42 years ago, 43 years ago, actually. And then I became a tester 38 years ago, and I've been an independent testing consultant for 25 years, written a few books, including a book on self-education called Secrets of a Buccaneer Scholar, a book on testing called Lessons Learned in Software Testing, and most recently, a book called Taking Testing Seriously, which just came out this month or last month.
Awesome. So you've seen a hell of a lot of change when it comes to testing, right?
Yeah. And when you've been in an industry for decades, you see long trends
Mm,
that other people can't see because they've just showed up recently, or even at 10 years. There are
mm,
certain trends that you just can't see. So I know, for instance, that automation was a big deal in 1987 when I started testing. There are people who think in the old days, testers banged rocks together to do testing. And then someone in 2007 thought, why don't we use computers to help test computers? And so test automation was born in 2007, right after the iPhone was invented. It was just ridiculous that they thought that, like, we didn't know in 87 that using tools to help test software was a absolutely normal, reasonable thing to try to do. Anytime you see those like histories of software testing that sometimes people try to put together, it's
mm.
usually not based on any kind of research at all, or talking with living people who were testers back in the 80s and 90s. And we actually saw the progress of history, and I can tell you what it was like to be a tester back then and how that has changed. And it has changed in a couple of important ways.
What do you think has stayed the same? So, like, thinking about testing, I mean, before we go into it, I guess, what do you define as a tester? Because there's so many titles in the industry, right? There's like,
Right.
I don't know, estet, QA engineer,
Right.
tester.
Well, I consider myself a tester. I guess people who like to use the term estet would have to call me an estet, because I started as a production developer in my teens, admittedly. For four
Yeah.
years, I developed video games before, based on that experience, I got hired as a test manager at Apple Computer, which they should never have hired me as a test manager, but I grew into the job pretty quick. Based on the fact that I knew 6502 assembly language and we were testing developer tools. So, so I, everyone on my team was a computer science graduate, except
Mm,
me, who I'm a high school dropout. But everyone else, we hired out of college generally, and or otherwise had a few years of experience. And uh, back for the first 5 years or so, I was a test manager. I don't think we distinguished between testing using tools and testing without using tools, because everybody had to use tools to test command line tools,
right.
for which were all developer tools, and everybody was a coder who did the testing. So I didn't really think about this division between what people like to call manual and automated testers. I do
Mm,
not use that distinction. I think that's a toxic distinction, but I did make that distinction back in the 90s I made that distinction for a long time before I realized how toxic it is to divide people up like that. Um, uh, but let's see. Oh yes, you were talking about the definition of tester. So I just say I'm a tester, and a tester is someone who specializes in evaluating software by exploring it, experiencing it, and experimenting with it. And you, of course, you can put on the hat of a tester, even if it's not your specialty, for a period of time. Just like I can play developer for a
Mm.
period of time to develop a test tool or develop some other thing that I want to develop. And for that period of time, I'm a developer. I worked with Tricentis in recent years and was on a project where I was the designer of a test tool. So I played designer, but I don't consider myself a designer. I consider myself overall a tester. That's where my heart is, and what my entire focus is for my whole career is how to be a fantastic evaluator of products via exploration, experience, and experimentation.
So what stayed consistent? So given like the amount of
Oh,
time
I'll
you've
tell you what stayed consistent. Everybody hates testers. Everybody hates testers in
Mm.
1987. Everybody hates testers today. Testers are the most unwelcome of all people on projects, except maybe HR people. I think we're above HR people in popularity. No one likes HR people. Um, it takes different shapes over the years, but testers have never gotten respect in the industry. We never have power. Uh, Everyone doesn't like us because we focus on bad news.
Mm.
And so there's always people on the project that are like, what if I have an idea? What if we just thought positively? What if we didn't think about monsters all the time? Maybe then there would be no monsters attacking our house. Maybe we can make wolves go away just by not saying the word wolf ever.
Mm.
It's always awkward, and people, the reason why testers even exist is because they're absolutely necessary. Otherwise, the industry would just get rid of testers because they don't they're so uncomfortable with the idea of people who are trying to quote break the product. We never break the product. What we do is we break dreams about the product. That's what my job is to break you out of your dreams and into reality. But people don't like being woke up like that. They want to keep believing that everything's going to be fine, everything's going to be fine.
Mm.
And so like stop, failure is not an option. They talk about these happy slogans. But I'm a tester because I my natural personality is that I think critically, that I'm always looking for problems. I look for problems in myself. I look for problems in my friends. And I have reconciled in my own work the how do you think about negative things all the time and yet
Mm.
still have a positive feeling about the people you work with. You can, it's just a little skill, a little practice, and you can simultaneously think critically and also think constructively, sort of.
Do you think being a tester for so long can cause anxiety in terms of
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And I
um
keep cutting you off in your questions because I love answering them so much.
no,
But yes,
far away.
yes, it creates anxiety.
It creates anxiety, yeah. It's something that, if you're always looking at the pessimistic side of things in terms of how things could go wrong, um,
Yes.
I think it can end up being a behavior that naturally just happens.
Yes, absolutely. It well, in my first year of marriage, my wife made me promise. She made a rule that I cannot think like a tester when I'm at home.
Mm.
I must believe things and have faith in things and look at the positive of everything when I'm at home with her.
Mm.
That was 34 years ago.
Wow.
And that was a good rule. It was a good rule. I recently found out she totally forgot that we had that conversation. I've been keeping to this rule all these years, and it turned out she wasn't even serious. But when I'm in this room, this is my office. I speak in this tone of voice, and
Mm.
this is a bold, loud tone of voice. I do
Mm.
not use this tone of voice with my wife, or she
Mm.
won't talk to me.
Mm.
I have a much softer, slower way of speaking when I am with my family
Sure.
than when I am teaching or in analysis mode. I put on my game face, as it were, when I'm testing, but you really have to find a way to take it off.
Mm.
So otherwise, if you really lean into testing, you just see everything is going to go wrong all the time, and it's a very hard way to live a life. And you're not. I wouldn't recommend anyone marry a tester.
Mm.
I'm lucky. I married someone who's the opposite of a tester, and it's wonderful to live with someone who's upbeat and constructive and believes angels are going to solve every problem. I can't believe that myself, but
Yeah.
living with my wife has been a wonderful experience because she is just naturally looks past problems, and my job is to be her bodyguard, keep her from being attacked. So we make a good pair. But yeah,
Yeah.
it is hard, and testers have a very hard time if you really get serious about testing, which is my whole thing is
Mm.
is trying to do it as best as I can do it. If you really get into testing, you have to admit that no amount of testing completely protects you from ignorance of big problems. No matter what you do, you can always see, well, I could always do more testing of this. I could test with more data. My data could be more realistic. I could do more stress testing. There still could be a problem out there that I haven't seen, and you never quite feel warm.
Mm.
It's like trying to sleep in the woods in winter with a little thin blanket. It's like nothing you can do ever makes you warm. It's kind of the psychic feeling when you really get into testing. And so someone says, "Well, are we ready to ship?" And you go like, I don't know. We could maybe and I remember sending a top 10 list to a vice president when I worked at Borland International. We were working on the Borland C++, and we were going to ship it. And I gave him a top 10 list of top 10 reasons not to ship this product. And I had good arguments. And
Mm.
the guy wrote me back and said, I agree with your arguments, but I have to ship anyway because otherwise we have to lay off 30 people if we don't get revenue coming
Mm.
in. And so I don't want to lay off a third of the team. So I'm going to ship anyway, but thank you for your message, it's a helpful message. He shipped and we were okay. And a few months later I had to write the VP again and said, "Well, I guess I was wrong. It turned out we're okay." Um,
Mm.
and then I just had to shrug. It's like I had to do my job, and I really believed I was right. And but maybe the market was more forgiving than I thought it was, and
Right.
it's very hard. It's why I say that very important for testers not to run the project. The tester should never decide when it's right at the right time to ship. What the tester should do is supply a report to someone whose job it is to run the business. The business gets to decide. They must decide about based on the risks, based on everything we know. When is the right time to release? Don't make a tester do that.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of like commercials in there, right? Which testers don't, in my opinion, don't have visibility on. Like for, you don't know what
Oh yeah,
contracts have been signed, what
oh
agreements
yeah.
have been made, right? So,
It's a whole different mindset running a business than being a tester. And this is why the role of tester is so important, I think.
mm,
Because if you're supposed to run the business, you cannot objectively test your own product.
yeah, yeah,
And if you're developing the product, you cannot invest your blood, sweat, and tears in developing a product and then shake all that off and say, I am going to test this in an objective, detached way. There's such a conflict of interest. And when you have a tester, there's no conflict of interest for the tester. The tester can just lean in to the darkness and then talk to the people who are out in the light, and those people can balance and say, okay, where are we? They're the right people to make those decisions, not the tester. So I feel like sometimes as a tester, I'm like running an engine room of an ocean liner. I
mm.
don't I don't ever get to come up and see the sunlight, enjoy the
Yeah,
the the cocktails, the banana daiquiris. Uh I am down in the darkness in the hold doing these things.
mm,
And that's my lot in life. Sometimes people say that testers are about quality. In my view, they're not about quality at all. I mean, I used to say I was about quality, and then I realized I'm really not. As a tester, my focus is not on quality, it's on truth.
mm.
My job is to know what's true and false, to find out the facts. The
Do you
second
find
thing is
do you,
I'm about problems.
do you
Yeah.
find well, sometimes the truth can be politicized, right? Because if you
Oh, of course.
if you have some tools that generate, I don't know, dashboards with actual numbers of bugs, I've seen sometimes this kind of data just be, we don't want this data, or we want to manipulate this data and not use it correctly, or and I've seen this a few times. So sometimes trying to get the truth is actually quite
Oh,
hard.
absolutely. And it's why I say that the fake testing industry is larger than the real testing industry. There is
Yeah.
much more demand for fake testing than for real testing. And what I mean by
Wow.
fake testing is people who go through various rituals where they define test cases and put them into Azure DevOps. They stick these test cases in. Then they talk about, oh, I have 800 test cases. Oh, you have 800. I have 8,000 test cases. Well, I
Mm.
have 800,000 test cases. Uh, they just throw these numbers around. What they're focusing on is the appearance of testing
Right.
rather than actually finding problems. And why is that popular? Why would someone pay you to do fake testing? Because it's all about blame displacement.
Mhm.
So if you have if and follow me on this. If you don't have testers at all, and then you ship the product and there's a problem, they go, you crazy? You didn't even have testers? You didn't test this thing before you shipped it? You are really at fault, you executive. So then the executive goes, I know what I'll do. I'll hire some testers. And then they hires testers, and then the testers start finding a whole bunch of problems. And every problem they find, we got to deal with. What a headache. And they don't just listen to you and stop finding problems. So you go like, okay, I've learned my lesson. I'm not going to hire real testers. I know.
Mm.
I'll hire people who always do what they're told.
Right.
I'll tell them to make test cases. I'll tell them to fill out paperwork. I'll tell them to make silly automation, and and then I'll tell them to stop when I want them to stop. And that way, it looks like we have good testing.
Mm.
And when there's a problem in the field because they missed bugs, I can say, oh, we followed best practices. I did everything I could. We hired testers just like you told me. I know it's the tester's fault. I'll fire the testers. Urgh. So with fake testing, you have a scapegoat for hire.
Yeah,
And that turns out to work pretty well. I mean, look at and of course, if you're a big enough company, it doesn't even matter because you just pay fines or you shrug and you go, that's life. OpenAI creates a product that encourages suicide in children, and they just kind of shrug and go, well, they used the product wrong, whatever. And if they have to pay a big fine or lose a court case once in a while, they just pay the money and move on. These billionaires don't care.
yeah, surrounding us.
Testing is really needed for smaller companies that can't afford to screw up. Those are the companies that want real testing. People who genuinely want to create a good product and can't afford to mess around. So medical devices are an area where real testing is more popular.
How do you get satisfaction from working in this industry? Like, what kind of things, given the kind of work we do, finding issues and managing stakeholders and expectations and that kind of thing, what makes you feel like you've had a good day as a tester or a good, solid project as a tester?
Well,
Given,
okay, there's two ways I can answer that. Like one is realize I keep cutting you off. I love your questions.
the,
I love them and I love them so much. I can't wait for them to be fully on the plate before I start eating them.
I like
That's
the
the problem.
answers.
So, anyway, I'm sorry. There's two ways I can uh answer that. One is as a tester, what gives me satisfaction. And the other is as a person who trains testers, which is actually what I do all day. Well, what I do for a living is I train testers. What I have to do to prepare to do that is I have to do lots of personal unpaid experimentation,
Right.
which is testing, but it's testing under my own terms rather than
Mm,
testing on a project. Um, so if I restrict myself to talking about on a project, where does the
sure.
satisfaction comes from? I love feeling like I'm protecting the project. I'm protecting my friends. I'm helping them look smart. I'm helping preventing them from being embarrassed. I want them to be successful, to feel successful. So that's my attitude when I'm working on a project as a tester is I have a savior complex. I'm just trying to protect my friends
mm,
and help them and support them. That really is the feeling that I have as a tester. Now, sometimes I've done testing on court cases,
mm.
which is my favorite kind of testing. Is when I'm an expert witness on a court case. And
Wow.
then I really had that feeling like it's my job to save the court case. My side is going to win. Their side is going to lose. The bad guys are going to lose. And it's because I'm going to discover the key evidence that's going to blow this case wide open. That's the feeling that I have. It's a duel between me and the experts on the other side of the case, and I'm going to win this duel. That's how I feel every time I'm on a court case. Um, And on a project, I have to find the big bug. I have to find the big bug before it's too late. Uh, but the actual satisfaction that I get in my actual day-to-day life as I live it now is my life is full of experiments. I do experiment. Right now I'm experimenting with testing AI. So
Mm,
I have a group of friends, a group of colleagues that have come around me or I've come around them over the years, and some are young, some are students that have come to me saying, please help me learn to test. And I go, sure, you can help me with some things that I'm doing. And so I get together with these guys every couple of days and we do special experiments. Like, for instance, LLM as judge. Uh,
Mm,
they say that you can use a an LLM to judge the output of an LLM. Well, does that really work? Let's put it to the test. Let's
mm.
actually try to use LLMs as judges and see how well they work in different kinds of scenarios. So I have a whole set of experiments that I've been doing about that. And all of this is developing materials for my upcoming classes. I'm doing a class on AI and testing in January for the first time,
Cool.
and so I'm developing a bunch of material for that. And to do that, I have to do a lot of practicing of
Yep.
of uh, of of this stuff because I only teach based on my own experiences. I don't go find some other book or website and just copy stuff from there. I'm not that kind of teacher. I try to teach with conviction. So I have to have personal experience. So a lot of my time is spent preparing through practice, practicing my craft with colleagues who can find problems in my work. That is a very satisfying process. It's satisfying for me to help my friends improve their minds. It's satisfying for me to discover things about, say, AI and testing that I don't see anybody else writing about.
Mm.
Maybe I'll be the first to write about it or to teach about it. Um, that's it's fun. Learning is fun.
What do you think the skills we need as testers, like, how do you think that's evolved since now? What in my mind, I sort of see like like from my sort of 14-year career, I kind of see like automation being quite a big thing with cloud and that kind of thing. And now it seems to be a lot of people making noise with AI, using AI in testing and then testing AI. What kind of do you think there's a lot of like skills that testers need to reskill and learn and grow and understand more about how we sort of test non-deterministic systems? And um, yeah, is there the big skill gap that is now existing with people who've been in the industry for a while, or is this something that we can still approach from like using similar techniques we've learned in the past?
Well, that time I'll let you finish your question, so I'm getting better. uh, couple things. One is there are skills that are universal testing skills that most testers are not learning, and I'm trying to get them to learn, and I've been trying to get them to learn for 30 years.
Mm,
And some people pay attention and some people don't, or most people don't. Um, and those are skills like general systems thinking, general systems analysis, uh, critical thinking, whole set of skills around systematic critical thinking, uh, that kind of stuff. I mean, they were skills that we should have been talking a lot about in 1995, but weren't because not enough work had gone into grounding the testing field in social science and in philosophy, which are um, is the true underpinning fields, I believe, of software testing. But now I and my colleagues have done a lot of work on that, and we feel like we have a pretty good handle on that. And we can systematically teach these skills now. So there's some universal skills that I would still say today are not held by many testers, and we need to practice those things. How do you manage your biases, for instance? What are
mm,
techniques of managing your biases? What are ways that you could come to a very complex system and break that system down quickly and
mm,
summarize it in such a way that we can turn that into a test strategy? Or how do you create a test strategy? A lot of testers, if you just say, you create a test strategy, they'll look at you blankly. They're not like, what is that? What's a test strategy? Is this just
yeah.
some word, like, is that an artistic concept you're talking about? So so there's that. However, there are some new skills that we now need to deal with, and one of them is working with AI is a huge big deal. You mentioned it yourself. You put your finger on it right there when you talked about probabilistic testing. Very, very important now. So it's more important than ever to understand inputs and outputs statistically.
Mm,
And that's the big thing that I've been doing with my experiments in testing AI is the whole idea of just like give it a prompt and then see the result. Well, is it a good result? Well, that's a pass. Like that doesn't work.
mm,
That's not an effective way to test. You've got to do something 100 times and see the variations of output that you get.
mm,
And also think about it like this. If you are testing an AI powered thing and you report a problem in the output, what's the developer going to do? The developer may well say, well, it does that sometimes, probably doesn't do it very often. Just, it's calling itself Mecha Hitler. Just ignore it. I mean, I
mm.
can't. Well, what am I going to do? Put in a prompt that says you are not Mecha Hitler? I guess I can do that. Whatever. They don't have a lot of control over these things. So as a tester, it's not enough to test to report a one-time fluke. You have to report patterns. You have to say this sort of thing happens 30% of the time or 10% of the time or that kind of thing. You have to have done something again and again and again and again. Well, of course, that means that automation plays a bigger role in primary testing as opposed to merely regression testing. Everyone wants to talk
Mm.
about regression testing, but primary
Interesting.
testing is my focus. Primary testing is the testing you do when you first see something. We need automation to help us with that because I've got to run things through the API lots and lots and lots of times. I did a test the other day where I did 6,310 prompts to
Wow.
characterize the behavior of a system because I needed to go through several different variables in the prompting and then try each one 25 times. And it took several hours for me to build up this report and voila, I got it. But I mean, there's no way you can do that just by typing something in and then reading the response. And
Yeah.
so it's important to be able to test probabilistically. And then that connects to something else, which is another new skill that we all need. I used to say when I was a young test manager, I used to say all testers should be programmers. And then I recanted later on when I met a bunch of great testers who were not programmers and never wanted to be programmers and would be
Mm.
terrible if they tried to become.
Yeah.
So then I said, okay, what we want is we need at least somebody on the team who is a programmer to help to be a toolsmith to support the people on the team who are not coders. And that makes a very strong test team. Okay, well, now it's I've been doing a lot of experimenting with vibe coding test tools.
Mm.
Now, I think vibe coding a production product is insane and will not work. Will immediately uh, die under its own weight, its own entropy. But if you are going to create, if what you need are throwaway test tools for specific purposes that don't have to be production quality, are small targeted tools that do specific things. For instance, I have a thing running right now that's constantly tracking my RAM usage in certain specific ways on
Mm.
my computer. I had that vibe coded in a minute or two, and it's for a specific purpose. I'm trying to figure out why is my system sometimes running out of RAM,
Mm.
and what are the circumstances that precede it. So I'm constantly logging this data, trying to track this, and I threw that together with Claude Code. So that's a skill. Using Claude Code to ask for what you want And I still think a toolsmith is a good thing to have on a team. I think a toolsmith using Claude Code can
Yeah.
be even better at supporting non-coding testers because there is some skills involved in using tools like Copilot or Claude Code. There are patterns, there are skills that you need to, there's an intuition you need to
Mm,
develop about how much should I give it, what chunks of things should I give it, should I look at the code, should I not look at the code, when should I intervene when it's kind of
mm,
spiraling and not getting anywhere, that kind of thing. There's a number of skills, and I have had a couple of students who were not coders at all who have tried to use vibe coding and eventually quit in frustration. And
really?
they couldn't get. I mean, they're able to get some things going some of the time, but as soon as they try to do anything more than the simplest things, then they just are riding this tiger that they can't control.
Right. Yeah.
And so I still think that it's important to, if you're going to use these tools most effectively, it's important to be at least strongly familiar with coding, and have some coding skill. But I do think that the excellent tester of today needs to be able to say, "Oh, I know what I need. I need a tool that does this. I need a tool that creates this kind of data." And they need to be able to go to Copilot or Claude Code or something and say, "This is what I need," and to be able to get that in a few minutes so that they can do deeper testing than they would otherwise be able to do. This creates a new problem, which I am suffering from right now, which is I have created so many tools that I keep forgetting what tools I have and how to run them. So I need to now I'm trying to figure out how do I ask Cloud Code to create me a tool catalog service that somehow reminds me of all the things that I've built with Cloud Code. Because
Right.
I've got like 25, 30 things now that,
Mm.
and there's some of them are clever tools, and then I just forget all about them the next day, and then a week later I need that tool, and I start creating it again with Claude Code, and then I realize I already did this.
Maybe it's
So
their business model to get you to use more tokens, right?
right, well, that's part of it, because this is expensive.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
at one of the skills is how do you do this stuff, but don't burn so many millions of tokens on it because it costs the company real money
Mm.
if you're inefficient at how you do this. I expect that all the prices are going to go up. I think right
Yeah.
now we're in the middle of the AI bubble, so all the prices are artificially low
Yeah.
in the same way that, Facebook used to be a good thing to use. It was free and it had lots of wonderful features. It was the pre shitification stage, where they're trying to suck you in with their good product. They haven't trapped you yet, so they have to treat you right.
Mm.
Uh, so, like the child catcher on Chitty Chitty Bang Bang that catches the children by saying, "Hey, free candy, everybody," and then the trap comes down, and the decorations fall away, and all it is kids in a cage. Well,
Yeah.
we're in the candy phase with AI, where it's attracting all the kids. But the prices are gonna have to go up when all of this collapses. So that means efficiency will become very important, and we will not want to not burn too many tokens. That's a skill.
Yeah. And I guess that skill comes from knowing coding, right? Knowing how to program and understanding how to use the tool
You need to know
effectively.
enough about it so that you don't just ride this tiger with no way to control it. Yeah.
What scares you about the future of AI or testing and or both?
Well, you know how they say that you won't be replaced by AI, you'll be replaced by someone using AI. Yeah, that's not a helpful thing. Here's the truth. You won't be replaced by AI or someone using AI. you'll be replaced uh, by a stupid manager who thinks that somebody using AI is better than you. What is the people who are actually the danger are these dumb middle managers under pressure from upper managers,
Right.
under pressure from investors who have bought this fantasy, this stupid fantasy that they bought this out of a sense of fear.
Yeah.
Everyone's scared. Oh, they're gonna miss something. They're gonna be laughed at because they're not on the cutting edge. They're gonna lose their jobs because they didn't embrace AI fast enough, and they feel they can't afford to think critically about any of this stuff. I guess that's my assumption. I don't understand these people. I don't know where CTOs come from. I don't know where they farm them, but it's nowhere I've ever been. I don't know where these guys come from. I'll never be one. So maybe I can't really talk about how modern business works, but it seems to me people are just chasing rumors and hype,
Mm.
and nobody knows anything, and no one really cares about the quality of their products. I'm not in that world. I'm a craftsman who runs a business, and I just want to be the best tester that I can be, and I want to teach testers, and I have faith that at least somebody out there wants a good product and isn't just trying to make another $1 billion or $100 million or $1 million even, and that's the only thing that matters to them. Uh, so what scares me is, well, I'll give you an example. A former client of mine, at the beginning of this year, uh, they informed their testers that they were laying off all the testers because the CTO had decided that there was this AI tool that could do all the testing without, we don't need testers. And we got to save money. So, how are we going to save money? We'll get rid of the testers. And some of this is metrics based because sometimes investors say, well, you have to make a certain amount of revenue per person. And the easiest thing to do is get rid of the testers because we aren't making revenue. We're providing insurance, but they go, well, we can go without insurance. But look,
Mm.
I don't have health insurance. I
Mm.
don't have health insurance. I want health insurance, but I can't afford health insurance. So I'm just crossing my fingers. I work out. I try to eat right, and I hope I don't get a disease and die. That's my strategy. I would much rather have insurance, but I can't afford it. So if testers are a kind of insurance for a project,
Mm.
some companies are saying, "Well, we just can't afford the insurance. We're just gonna gonna plunge ahead, and hopefully Google will buy us, and everyone will be rich, and then we'll move on to our next thing." And so what what happened with this client is they said, we're going to lay off all the testers. Okay. So they give the testers like 3 months notice. Meanwhile, they get this tool in, they try to use it, and they get the developers. The developers are now supposed to do all the running the testing with this tool. Turns out tool doesn't work. At the last minute, and when I say at the last minute, I mean the testers had already provided their laptop, given their laptops back to be wiped.
Wow.
Uh, the CTO was relieved of duty, and the acting CTO said, "Testers, we can't afford to lose you. Please stay. Please come back." And a couple of them stayed, and the rest left. And so they managed to retain a couple of their testers out of desperation.
Wow.
So what I'm worried about is this CTO stupidity where
Mm.
they buy the hype. They think the testers don't do anything that's important. They think the developers can do their own testing anyway. And and to me, that's just insanity. But I mean, it's insanity because I've been in the industry 38 years and I know how valuable it is. If I'm running a company, I want somebody who can give me an unvarnished opinion of this product that's not just blowing smoke at me, but is going to help protect me from making bad decisions. I want an independent test group. That's what I want. And
Mm.
I know that I need that information to run my business. But these apparently these CTOs just don't believe in that, and that's what I'm worried about. I'm worried about people who buy the AI hype
Mm.
and they have a bunch of money. They're the people who control the companies. They buy the hype, and they make these terrible decisions. And lots of good, smart people are irrevocably harmed by this uh, irresponsible behavior. I am really worried about that.
Yeah, I can see the reality of that. And I don't have an answer for how we stop that. I think even with AI in general, I think like if we look at AI safety and AI, like, there's been a lot of people talking about this, right? There's loads of $1 billion checks being signed and thrown about that people
Yeah,
have even overlooked safety and security of these systems,
yeah.
right? Around, um,
It's all about money,
yeah.
and all someone has to do is give me $1 million and I'll change what I say. I have a price just like everybody else. I have a price. I mean, look, I worked with Tricentis for 5 years, and if you go look at what I said on LinkedIn for the last 5 years, you'll find I did not criticize Tricentis at all during that period of time. Uh, I need to work too. And so there are things I'm not going to say because I'm hoping to get work, and
Sure.
everyone should understand that. And so it's all about money.
Yeah.
And but I mean, we can still try to be responsible citizens, and we can run businesses without telling lies to each other, outright lies. We should be able to do that, and I think we can do that. And I have worked with some people. I'm about to go to work now uh for a man I admire very much that I've worked with before when he was in charge of testing for Barclays Bank many years ago. And uh he's called me and Michael in to help his company, which is a huge company, to try to do AI testing right.
Mm.
And I'm excited that there is at least one person in the world like this guy. But there aren't a lot. I wish there were more, but there are some who really want to do good testing, good work with AI instead of just doing press releases and declaring the advent of a new reality. And um, so maybe there's a little bit of hope around the edges here.
Your new book, what's that? Why have you written a new book and who is the audience for? Like, um, I guess, yeah, what was the impetus for writing a new book? You've got already some good books out in the market. What's triggered you to write a new book? And what do you think folks can learn from this?
Well, I didn't think there were any good testing books on the market except the last one that I wrote, Lessons Learned in Software Testing. So
I mean, your books.
obviously, part of the reason I wrote this book is apparently I'm incredibly arrogant. I just think every other testing book sucks. There there are a couple that are not terrible, or that are good. Like there's a book called Perfect Software by Jerry Weinberg, Perfect Software and Other Illusions, which I admire very much, but doesn't tell you exactly how to
Mm.
test it, but it does talk about testing. And other works by Jerry Weinberg have been very helpful to testers as well. But as far as a book that comprehensively or attempts to comprehensively describe the deep process of responsible software testing, I don't think there ever has been a book that has been written about that. So I set out to do that, and I don't think anyone again will ever try to write a book like the book that I just wrote. It's too hard. It's too
Mm.
difficult. And there's no money in it. So why would
Yeah.
anybody? That's why I haven't written it up to now. I came into a windfall and was able to spend essentially 8 months without having to get any income in. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to finish this book
Mm.
on this schedule. So that's one thing. Also, there's a couple other elements. I've been working on rapid software testing methodology since 1992, something like that. I got serious about it around the year 2000, really serious, and named it and peddled my methodology. Uh, and it's been an oral tradition with slides, but mostly we just teach it as we've developed it over the years. And we felt like if we retire, Michael Bolton and I
Mm.
retire, then all this stuff is just gonna disappear. So we wanted to have something that
Mm.
it's a book that'll be around for 25 years or something, another 25 years, and will be helping testers with our philosophy of testing, which is a humanistic philosophy of testing. It's an anti-authoritarian philosophy of testing. It's quite different from the other philosophies of testing that are out there, which are artifact based and dehumanizing and or authoritarian, like the ISTQB. And I'm implacably opposed to the ISTQB and their attempt to take over the testing industry. This group of German businessmen who weren't even testers, they decided they would come in and do their rent seeking and profit off the fear and doubt of young testers and the laziness of managers. That's exactly how they make their money. And um, I wanted to counteract that. So, uh, but then there's one other impetus, which is uh, 57 months ago, a colleague came to me and said, James, a group of your friends think that there should be a book about rapid software testing. And since you're not writing one, we're going to start writing one. So do you want to be a part of this? And I said, I want to be a part of it and I want to run it. If you're
Yeah.
going to force my hand, then I'm going to take over this book. I want it to be written on my terms.
Mm.
And so I was basically pushed into doing this by some friends of mine who felt strongly that there needed to be a book. And we dedicated the book actually to the two guys that pushed us the most, who, if it weren't for them, Michael and I would never have gone through the pain of writing this book because it was very hard to write this book. It was hundreds of hours of Michael and I arguing with each other to write this book,
Mm.
not counting all the chapters contributed by our friends.
Right.
Yeah, though they whatever they went through, and then I had to edit every single one of their chapters, so they had to argue with me. But the first half of the book is the description of the rapid software testing methodology. And that was much more difficult to write down than I expected it
Mm.
to be, because we weren't just gonna write what was on our slides. We wanted to take it another level, another 2 levels deeper and really get into the meat
Crux.
of
Yeah.
what it's all about. And so that's why we have like I think a 60 something page chapter on how to do a test. Just that was the topic of that chapter, how to do a test. And, just 60 something pages just about that.
Wow.
And then, a chapter on the foundations of our philosophy, which has something like 100 references to scholarly, papers in sociology and in other fields to, illustrate what the basis is of what we're saying, so that people wouldn't just think it's our opinion. It's not.
Mm.
We're trying to ground our work in the whole history of human thought. And that is not easy to do. In fact, when we were writing lessons learned in software testing back in 2001, we kept saying to ourselves, the co-authors of that book, Kem Kaner, Brett Petticord, and me, we kept telling each other, this is not the treatise on software testing. This is just a bunch of little messages about testing that we're giving to the world. It's not the textbook. And so what I just wrote is the textbook, or more like a textbook. It need it needs another year of work for me to really turn it into a textbook, but I didn't want to take another year, so here's what I have. But maybe a second edition will have a couple more chapters and exercises and things like that.
Very cool. I'm pleased there's a book out that folks can read and understand, because um, there's a lot of testing that we do that we forget sometimes some of these basic principles of critical thinking and when are we testing? When are we sort of checking? And I think that's quite important. I remember doing the RSTIO course. I think it's online one, intensive online course in 2014. So um, yeah, good to see a book out.
Also, you took the RST online thing when it was pretty young. It must have been like the 10th one or
Yeah.
ninth one. We've done 45 of them now.
Wow. Yeah, it was 2014. And it's always been in the back of my thinking of when I'm thinking about testing. But it's as we've talked about, right, with some of the testing processes and artifact driven testing and very tools focused testing,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it's not always been possible to put all those things into practice. But it's been very useful to at least have that in the back of my mind when I'm thinking about test strategy or thinking about heuristics about what scenarios I should be thinking about.
Good. Well, I'm very glad to hear that.
Very cool. And on the final note, James, and I really appreciate your time on the podcast. Your insights have been great for me and for Tech and Test. Um, what do you think if you were speaking to someone who is considering to join like the software testing community, or like they're in their first testing job, or they're considering should they be a tester in this world of AI? What would you say to that person?
Well, I'd say, in a sense, everyone has to be a tester now because of the world of AI. That the skills of testing are more important than ever, uh, whether or not you actually get a job as a tester. I would say, look, the yeah, testing job market is really bad right now, as is, of course, the developer job market is really bad right now. It's a very tough world. I so bear that in mind. But if you want to get into it and you want to make the most of it, I can help you. I love helping new testers, and I would suggest that you become fantastic at using AI to help you solve problems, especially agentic coding, and also security.
Hmm.
Security testing is something that is particularly important these days. Testing of AI and testing of security are the hot areas uh, of of testing. So I would point them in that direction. And also, I'd say that the skills of testing are worth developing because no matter what you do, they will come into play. And even if you don't get work as a tester and you get work as a, I don't know, something else. I don't know what the jobs are these days. But like, say you get a job as a developer or a, a, a product manager, uh, something like that, a scrum master, with the skills of testing, of real testing anyway,
Mm.
kind of testing I'm talking about, which is systematic critical thinking about technology. will put you in a good position to do your job well. And amongst all the things, if I were to pick, let's say, one capability that an excellent tester has that you need no matter whether you're a tester or not, it's the ability to walk toward a piece of technology that is witheringly complex, obscure, poorly documented, and not be afraid to engage with it. A good tester must be able to walk toward the scary technology that they know they're not fully prepared to understand. Must be able to do that. And you that's a skill that you can develop. It's a rapid learning, rapid analysis kind of skill. So focus on that, focus on your rapid learning, and then you'll be able to conquer anything.
Wow. I'm going to leave it there. Those are fantastic words on ending the podcast episode, but
Thanks, Peter. Thanks for having me.
really appreciate it. Thank you so much, James.